We'll have a little bit of the Adam and DJ tag team with some Ron thrown in for extra flavor. So we'll be, today is a continuation of last time with capital improvement plan reviews. And so today will be the streets and then the utilities, and then we'll finish it up with the equipment CIP. So, and I'll start with streets. So I do most of the street stuff as a city engineer. You can see I have on the spreadsheet, I have the next few years laid out. I always caveat this. These are just suggestions at this point, and what streets, what year, other than next year, which you may remember that we sat and had discussions in April of this year about what streets we would do next year. And then so the next slide is those. And so we, you approved the design request for next year's streets, so we are doing design for those right now. Those streets are Willow Drive South, the segment from Fox to Brown, the Parton Woods, there's Lane and Drive, and then if funding allows, we said we would do Orchard Park Road as well. Streets, when you look at down below at the funding, usually the limiting factor on our streets is our pavement fund. That's the fund that's the most constrained of the funding sources for our streets project. But streets projects, because they touch so many things, we also have stormwater funding that we use for the stormwater portions. And then anytime we're doing a street that's over the top of sewer or water, you'll see some funds there for any alterations we make to those. And generally those are, like on sewer, that's we'll be adjusting, raising manholes, getting them flush with the asphalt. For water, it's usually a replacement of water valve boxes and things like that. If we were doing a big reconstruction project, which we're not on any of these, then you might also see complete utility replacements, which would be much bigger numbers. If we were going after an entire water main or a sewer main or something like that as part of the project. A little bit of that we are doing with Partonwood, in that we had the Partonwood force mains as a sewer project this year. And so then we'll be following up next year with paving that road. In fact, they're out prepping for patches today on the parts of the pavement that they disturbed as part of the sewer project. So you can see there, all in, we're looking at about $1.1 million of work on those roads, about $943,000 of that of pavement, and then the rest coming from stormwater and sewer. Next.
Sorry, before you said I wasn't here for when you decide roads. If a citizen has a suggestion, there is a place on the website to.
Yeah, normally we get suggestions all the time.
Yeah, suggestions.
They come in. They come in. Yeah. So Brent Weldon, who is our streets and stormwater supervisor, he's out and about, so he gets contacted by a lot of the residents. Someone will call DJ, someone will call me directly, and we just kind of keep a list of those. The big driver on streets is I have a reoccurring project I do myself, which is I go out every April before I brief you guys on the next year's streets, and I'm out doing pavement assessments of those that I think are either really close, or I also try to capture the ones that are in the maintenance district that we're doing that year. And so I use the Corps of Engineers pavement assessment model to assess the pavement, and it gives them a condition category, and kind of the worse the category, the lower the category, 1 to 100, the more in need the street, the pavement is in need of work. And then bring those to you all in the spring. There's always way more roads that we could be doing that, you know, the conditions of the road warrant something to be done, then there are funds to do it. So then we sit and go through those. I'll send a list out to you all, a month ahead of time, saying you should go drive these roads.
So what we typically do is in the spring we'll go drive them, or we'll suggest everybody go drive and see what they see firsthand. Because I get people that call me, obviously, and these people that call him.
Sure.
But in the end, obviously, we always say let's get the worst done first, but then we got to mix and match if we win dollars. If we're 8 rows, if we only get down 5, and which was more important. And that when you drive them and I drive them, we kind of look at these and come up with a consensus, and we
And when we're making those decisions, we're trying to figure out, there's the pavement condition, and then you're also kind of, well, how many people does this road service? Is it, is it a dead-end cul-de-sac, or is it a collector road, what we call a collector road, where lots of people are using it, all those kind of things to figure out, which we think we should do in the following year. The other thing I should point out, because I know two of you are fairly new to this, is within pavement, there are two main funding sources for pavement. One is our pavement management plan, which the funding comes from our levy, so tax dollars. That pays for the majority of our pavement. We also have a category of roads that are called municipal state aid roads, so there's about 9 miles of those roads in our system, and they are eligible for state aid money. That state aid money comes from when we all go to the gas pump, and there's a bit of that price tag that goes to state taxes. A portion of those state taxes are given back to municipalities that qualify for municipal state aid funding, of which we are one.
What's the criteria for establishing an MSA?
For a city to become part of the program?
For the program to determine which roads in our city qualify.
So the city, each city submits what they want in their MSA network, and you're allowed a certain mileage based on the total mileage you have and your population and some of these kind of things. We haven't changed ours in years and years and years and years. They were submitted a long time ago, and then we track those, and then they're given a tracking number by the state. Every 3 years, I have to submit traffic counts to MnDOT to show that these are higher usage roads.
Is that a qualifier? They have to be higher usage.
Yep, they should be. They're supposed to be. Yeah, they're supposed to be collector roads, and I could give you the exact. I could look it up, give you the exact quote, but they're supposed to be roads that augment the overall transportation network. So they're generally going to be your roads that are connecting county roads or connecting into state highways.
Feeders, basically.
Yeah. So, example, Old Crystal Bay Road here is an MSA road. The Brown Road from 112 north to County Road 6 is one of our MSA roads. Watertown Road and most of Fox, except the piece we just did, those are MSA roads. So they're the bigger ones.
Thanks.
The other part of that is when you do an MSA road, you have to maintain certain standards that are set by the state. So they tend to be more expensive to do as well because they carry higher loads. They have different geometry that we have to maintain than some of our little lanes. Every year, there's so much money in a pot for MSA roads, and then there is an allocation that happens by the state, and about half of the allocation is based on our population, and the other half of our allocation is based on what the state says is our needs, and our needs is based on mileage, amount of curbing, number of culverts, number of light poles, number of intersections. There's this whole algorithm that we do, and so every year, twice a year, all the city engineers, we go and meet and we participate in that allocation process, argue with each other about who has more needs and that sort of
Almost
thing.
like an amateur draft.
That gets to the gist of it.
Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
The water CIP, you can see before you, there'll be a few items on here that are reoccurring items and then some special projects. And the first one is our lead service inventory. I'll hit this one real quick. We are some of the fallout from the Flint, Michigan water issue from several years ago, where they changed water sources and then the lead pipes started leaching lead. Well, this has caused fallout throughout the country. One of the things that the state of Minnesota did is they mandated a lead water service lead inventory. Water service is the section of pipe from the main to your house, kind of as DJ has depicted in the picture. And so every municipality by October of next year is supposed to have completed a survey to determine whether or not the municipality has any lead service pipes within their inventory. We are, we are 99.9% sure we have none, and that is based on the age of our system. Most of our system was installed after the ban on lead service pipes went into effect. So we're pretty sure we have none, but nonetheless, we still have to go through the inventory process to verify that. And there's several criteria the state give us that allow us to certify that a service line is not lead. And And so we're doing that. There's some grants out there that we applied for. We haven't gotten back yet an amount, and we have been working with Bolton&Menk and their GIS folks to put together an application so that we can easily account for those. The other thing is we've been leaning forward a little bit, and DJ's crew, whenever we're installing a new water meter on a property or any of those kind of things, we're doing a visual check, which is one of the ways that you can verify a place. It's to do a visual check, get photos, and document
Take a photo of it.
that it's not lead. So did I miss anything, DJ?
No.
We have 20,000 allocated for that, and it's really just staff time and consultant time to compile all that and be able to submit our report to the state. Next one's fire hydrant upgrades. DJ?
This goes along with, as we do road projects, as we increase our capabilities of our water system. There's been some changes, partially driven by the industry, partially driven by the fire department, with a connection on the front that's a quarter turn connection versus a threaded connection. And then some of our fire hydrants, still from when they were installed back in the 70s and 80s, as the one picture shows, it's hard to see, the one that's in the grass. The caps don't have a operating nut on them. They just have a raised up space on the cap. So as you go to turn that cap off, the wrench slips off. So part of this upgrade would be replacing those. We've been replacing them as they stick. This would be a more concentrated effort. As part of our road projects, our reconstruction projects, where we replace water and sewer and all that, we are installing new style hydrants. We do have a couple dozen in town, but our count is over 300, so this would focus a little bit heavier on that as we do our overall maintenance. So it's a placeholder. They run for the conversion about $1,000 each for that front cap and the two sides, and then raising them. We have a new minimum standard of 16 inches from the ground, so that portion that you see in the grass now is a 10 or a 12. The picture that's up in the top, that's in the gravel, is our new standard. It's a minimum of 16 inches.
Less need to snow blow around them.
It's a little bit easier to.
So you're saying 30 grand to probably upgrade 30 of the?
Yeah, 30 of them to get us started. And then as we do road projects and future projects, we'll incorporate them.
So we've been incorporating them into bigger projects, like when we were replacing water main. So when we did the water main replacement project, we used all the new style hydrants. But to get after some of the ones that, like DJ said, that were installed in the 1970s, we have no future projects allocated at this point anytime in the near future, is we ought to be looking at those and trying to chip away at those and getting those upgraded. Next is water meter replacements. Do you want to hit it? You can hit this one.
This is year 2.
Three.
Excuse me, actually year 3 of our continuing replacements of our older style water meters. 1, the efficiency. 2, the batteries are starting to go dead on. So when we read monthly, we've always got a series of, we refer to them as the 18,000 series in the serial numbers. We've got about a half dozen to a dozen that drop off the system. And so this will be a little more concentrated effort and go through. We did this, 2021 was our last go around.
So when we started this on phase 1, we looked at all of our meters across the city. The industry will tell you that a meter has a 20-year life. However, we're finding battery life on most of the meters is about 15. So we started projecting back then, looking at when a bunch of meters were going to hit about that 15-year period, looking at those in these groups, and that's why they're kind of separated. We did some in 2019. Those were the ones that were hitting that 15, 20-year window then, and then the next kind of swath of them was in 21, and then this will be our third swath. It'll be a fourth. I think we have in 2027 or something like that is the last batch of them. When that's done, we'll have completely turned over all of the water meters in our system. The new water meters we have coming in have a different metering mechanism in them. They use sound waves to meter. The older style water meters used a little disc that went back and forth. And the problem with the older style back and forth little disc is over time they would start doing that slower and slower. So you would actually, we would not be able to bill for all the water that was being used because they would underread. One common complaint you do get from residents is they claim that their water meters are overreading. It's physically impossible for the water meter to overread, but it is very possible for it to underread. This is a continuation of that. All these new meters that we are installing are radio read, and they're replacing radio read as well, but the newer versions that are coming out, there's some of them where, after we did the first batch, as soon as the operator walked out of the building with the reader, he had 50%. Had that much stronger signal, whereas before, on some of these older versions, they're driving all the way down the driveway to try to get close enough to the house to be able to pick up the signal. So.
And when you turn them over, no impact to a resident?
No, we use the consultant, so it goes through a whole thing of notifying the resident and working with them. There's like an online app where the resident can schedule time for the technician to show up, and so the technician shows up and changes out the meter, and then we get that record and enter it into our billing system and our asset management system and record it that way.
A little inconvenience of just having to be home, because we don't enter the home unless somebody's there.
Sure.
So it's kind of like when we have the heater guy or whatever over. Yeah, we inconvenience the resident by scheduling that. But the next one's the wellhead protection plan for water. This is not really a capital project, but it's a project that potentially costs enough that I track it and similar projects, planning projects on the capital improvement plan, so we have visibility of them because we do pay for them out of those funds. The wellhead protection plan is something that is mandated by the state as part of protecting the drinking water supply throughout the state. And you have to update your water wellhead protection plan every 10 years. And you can see I have the image of the last one was 2013. So we're in that. We've been notified by the state. We were notified last year to begin the process. It's a couple-year process to go through. So we are in that process. DJ has been coordinating with Minnesota Rural Water, who's the subcontractor for the Department of Health on this project. So far we haven't incurred the cost, but before we get to the end, we are going to have to put together another wellhead protection plan. And so the fee that I have in there is just to cover any of the consulting fees to make all the maps. And when it's all done, it's a book about yay thick if you print it out. And so there's a lot of well reports and things like that.
Typical government project.
And in general, what the wellhead protection plan is doing is you look at wherever you have a municipal well, drinking water well, which we have 4, and then you can kind of see in the pictures there's certain levels of protection around each of those wells that's maintained. So anytime anybody wants to do something in our wellhead protection area, drilling another well or those kind of things, there's a certain amount of coordination and permitting that has to go on. And again, it's all about statewide trying to protect the aquifers and making sure contaminants and things can't come down uncapped wells and those kind of things and impinge upon our drinking water. So that's what it's all about in the end. It's very bureaucratic, it takes a long time, but it is important. Next, water mosquito controls. I'll give it to DJ.
This is the South Water Treatment Plant, Navarre. This is the control panel along with all the electrical components that tell the wells to turn on and off, refill the water tower. Some of these components, based on their age, are nearing their end of life. They're in a hazardous atmosphere down there with corrosion and chemical atmosphere, and some of the conductivity, some of the reporting back and forth between the north system to the south system is becoming inaccurate. So this would be a upgrade to that system to just try to stay compliant and get rid of some of the gremlins, as we refer to them in the industry, the nuisance type situations. The electrical wiring becomes green with as the chlorine and phosphate and all that start to eat away and they lose some of their conductivity in their connection points.
And also this is, you know, as it may seem, this is the controls, this is the brains for that water plant. So this is, like Leisha says, this is what's turning the wells on and off and the pumps on and off, but not only just the pumps that move the water, but it also is calibrated to, you know, turning the little micro pumps that we have that inject the chlorine and the fluoride and run all those processes. So extremely important that it works properly. And then the other part of the system is, in addition to the controls, is the ability to send back alarms and information back to the crews that maintain the water plant. So that so there's a lot of stuff that we can monitor remotely at our water plants and be able to see, you know, that everything's functioning as it should, as well as receive those alarms when it's not.
Also helps us with our Department of Natural Resources reporting at the end of the year as to how much water we have pumped. It records that electronically and we're able to download that information on that each year. Instead of, you know, relying on, is that a 5 or a 6 spreadsheet. So.
And how often does it get upgraded?
It's been over 15 years on this portion of it. Certain components inside get replaced and upgraded more often, but a complete redo, I think the last one was 1998.
So after I started.
So it's a lot of baling wire and duct tape.
Appreciate that.
The next one we have is a big one. I've titled this one North Water Plant Iron Filter. This is not a project for next year. This is a project I had put on the CIP out there several years, but it is a potential big project for us, and so I wanted to make sure I brought it to your attention at this point. So DJ was just talking about the Navarre plant. That's half of our system. The other half of our system is up here in the north. We call it the North Water Plant. It's a facility that sits right behind Otten's, where we have our 2 wells, municipal wells, as well as the small plant that does the chlorine and fluoride and what have you. So last year, you may remember, particularly those who were here over the winter, on a couple occasions to send out updates that we were starting to experience high arsenic readings on that system. Now, arsenic is a naturally occurring chemical, and it occurs in the particular rock structures that we have in Minnesota, and that's about the extent of my geology knowledge. So it's naturally occurring. We have thresholds set by the EPA and the Minnesota Department of Health on how much you should see. And what we were starting to notice as we went through the late fall and winter last year, and we were pumping at higher and higher rates the water, we were seeing that arsenic level increase. What we finally determined was, or at least what we got the water folks to help us with was, when we were running our pumps at 500 gallons per minute, we had no problem whatsoever. When we did upgrades a few years ago, we put in pumps that could do 1,000 gallons per minute. When we had those pumps turned all the way up to 1,000 gallons per minute, that's when we were seeing the arsenic. And the chemistry, and again, the geology is a little bit beyond me, but the way I understand it is, as that water is moving that much faster through those rock formation, it tends to strip more of that arsenic out of that mineral. It also happens to strip iron at the same time as it comes through. So the short-term fix was simply to turn our pumps back down to 500 gallons per minute, which is fine most of the time. However, as this water system expands into the future, we have, we don't have dates, but we have planned development further down Wayzata Boulevard with some rather high density. If we were to start to see those developments go in, then we probably would need to be running our pumps at 1,000 gallons per minute to be able to keep up with the requirements, particularly during a dry summer, during irrigation months. The other thing that's helped us a little bit on this is that the school district has drilled some irrigation wells and is starting to come off of our municipal water for their irrigation needs, which is good because I think I calculated a couple years ago that their irrigation represented about 15% of our water usage on this northern plant, just for their irrigation. Yep. So
Makes sense to have their own well for that, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
yeah, when you think about like all those fields they have over here in the high school area, and then even back here in the middle school, so it's a lot of irrigation they're doing. So anyway, the way to address the arsenic, if we have to go to those higher pumping levels, is to put in iron filtration. The same chemistry that works with the iron works with the arsenic and gets it out of the water. We did have Bolton&Menk, their water experts, put a simple plan for us together so that we could meet the state's deadlines to get on their priority project list. So we did do that, and that's where these numbers for these costs come from, was from doing that exercise. So we are as we stand now on the state's project priority list, which does qualify us for the state revolving fund for drinking water and some other things, and also puts us in good stead if we go to seek national or state funding for a future water plant project of this scope. So as you look at the timeline, you see we spent about $5,000 this year just doing those plans so we could get on the list. Sometime in the future, right now I have 2026 for design. We would do more detailed design and be looking for funding, and then to be able to do a construction project maybe in 2027, something like that. I certainly don't think we need it sooner than that. It may be much later than that, but it is something I think we should be tracking and making sure we're getting all our ducks in a row so that we would qualify for any of those funding sources. Yep.
Adam, I know I saw that, and I think it was built into this, and I can't read this one that's in front of me.
Sorry.
I'm not gonna pull it up right now, but that's what I was, seeing on there for about 11 million.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, when we did that, in the funding portion of that fund is if you look other funding grant, that's what we put there. Is we would need to go find some money
Okay.
to do that.
So this is a heads up now for
For
2027?
Yep. And that's just where I have again where I put it
Okay.
As a placeholder.
as a placeholder. I wanted it enough years out that we had time to go out and seek funding, but not so far out that we were forgetting about it.
Would a state grant cover 11 million? Or would we be responsible for some of this?
A large portion of it, and the nice thing about getting on the project priority list, and there's another list, I can't remember the name of it, but we're on that one as well, is one that qualifies you for those revolving fund grants and things like that. The other thing that a lot of cities do, and Mound was just successful for another reason, but for a water plant upgrade, of getting on the state bonding bill, so getting just state money to do that. Minnetonka Beach did something similar. I believe Spring Park did when they had the TCE problem.
I didn't notice, do they require for the state bonding is like a year ahead, or what? when
Yes,
do
as they
bond?
go into the getting ready for the legislative session, they're doing it right now.
Okay.
Legislators that are on the bonding committee are wandering around the communities looking at different potential projects.
So this is premature for that?
This one, yes. I think we would be looking in the next bonding session.
Okay.
Also, I did meet with Congressman Phillips' office manager maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and that was one of the things I talked with her about a little bit. Is there's been some success too for some Minnesota communities getting some federal money for water projects. So, and something that the Congressman's office has been sponsoring in federal legislation. So, there may be multiple prongs for us to look on that. Yeah, nothing's an emergency. We're doing fine. It's just in the future we'll need to be prepared to do something different. The next one I have is water valve replacements. I'll do this one real quick. We have a couple water valves every year that we do outside of the road project, where we just find a water valve that is bent, not operating, those kind of things. So we've been trying to schedule about 4 per year to just replace. You can see on the map there, the blue dots, that's where all, at least when I pulled the map, that's where all our water valves were, so there are a lot of them. And they just need replacing every once in a while. And they cost, you know, $4 to $5, depending on the dig, $4,000 to $5,000 to replace one. We are now on to sanitary sewer. This one's a fairly predictable CIP. It's pretty cyclical how we do things in sewer, which is a good thing. But still a lot of work that needs to be done. The first thing on there is sewer rehabilitation. We do this every year. It takes slightly different forms depending on the needs. Most of the time, though, the majority of the rehabilitation technique we use is called cured in place pipe. I have a little picture down below of what that is. And so we have a lot of sewer pipe, particularly in the Navarre area, that was installed in the 60s and 70s. It's made of clay and clay cracks and allows roots and everything else to intrude in it. They're also, when they were installed, they're in shorter segments, so they tend to get offset. And so we have lots of ways for water to infiltrate into our sewer system, which costs us money as we pay the Met Council for the treatment of all that water, and also can incur penalties, which we have gotten in the past.
And what's nice too is when we do get penalties or just fees that we get from the Met Council, they do have a thing where we can take those dollars, if we reinvest them back in to fix areas that we know need to get taken care of, they'll give us those dollars to do that as well. So it's kind of.
So we have systematically been going after and this is primarily after our gravity mains, and so the way this works is there's not a disruption or a significant disruption anyway to the residents, because we're not digging. They're using existing manholes to basically creating a pipe inside a pipe. It looks like a giant when you do it. It's kind of cool. It's like a giant sock of fiberglass with a resin embedded in it, and so they blow this sock with air inside out into the pipe, along the pipe, and then they flood it with hot water, steam, and that causes the resin to cure, and then boom, now you have a plastic pipe inside your old pipe. And then they just have to go back through with a little robot and re-drill the holes into the service lines for the residential connections. So we've been systematically trying to work our way out of the Navarre area. Next year, it's one of the things we work on in the winter is identifying the exact pipes to do. But I do have a bunch on my list from the area just north of Navarre and the Fagerness, North Arm kind of area up in there that we need to get after. We've been allocating anywhere between $250,000 to $300,000 a year to do this. Also, I just did get a notice a couple weeks ago. Met Council has another grant cycle that we can get funding from the Met Council for some of this work. Every 2 years we've been getting about $50,000 to $100,000 from the Met Council to help offset some of these costs.
More of these problems, just because the older pipes. But when the residents, when they sell their houses, they come in for their inspections, and they find that they've got an I&I problem. They can do the same thing. I mean, the terminology is they call it putting a sleeve in. And they put a sleeve in, and they basically seal up all the cracks and stuff that are there when they sell it. They find that it's creating inflow that we're not aware of.
And the other thing about being Orono is our geography. And so if you look at the map there's a lot of blue water right next to where our sewer pipes are. So we are really susceptible to inflow and infiltration coming into our pipes if there is a crack. And we can see it. We can see the pump records on our lift stations where they're pumping, where we can just see it after a rain even.
There's some manholes that are underwater sometimes.
And that is the other part. We're not looking at doing that this year, but the other thing that we do in this project year sometimes is we'll do manhole sealing as well, which is similar but different. But the idea is to seal the manhole for the same reasons.
Would there be any reason to do this project a little more aggressively instead of so slow? Or slow and methodical?
Well, I would say $300,000 a year is probably about right.
Okay.
We have some pipes that we identified in some previous years that we couldn't afford to do until now, but we're starting to catch up.
Okay.
So I think as we look forward, I think that, and it may be even in 5 or more years, I might come to you and say, maybe we can start dropping this number off, I don't know. But probably not, probably because then I'll be coming to you and say, hey, we need to go after some more manholes or something.
Don't go after the manhole side.
And these pipes, Adam hasn't mentioned it, so they're identified, we do a, 1/5 of our lines, we televise every year. So that's how the pipes that need the CFPP.
So you know.
We can see that there's a crack or roots or whatever it is, so it's
So
not just shooting darts.
yeah, so Scott Oberhanger, who's our utilities supervisor, works for DJ, just finished cleaning Area 5, which is up here, and then right behind him is a contractor with the televising equipment, so basically taking a camera on a cable, sticking it in each pipe,
Blow out the pipes and then.
we televise them, and then we spend the winter looking at, as Scott likes to call them, dirty movies of sewer pipes to see where we can find cracks, offsets, all these different kinds of failure points in the pipes.
But you know, once you do it, it's gonna last for quite a while.
Yes.
So once you catch up, it's kind of a glide path at that point, we're just playing catch up for a number of years.
I mean, I'm trying to be proactive.
Yep, that makes sense.
The other major component, in addition to pipes for our sewer system, is our lift stations. We try to rehabilitate 2 per year to keep on a cycle of getting around to all of them once every 20 years. DJ, I'll let you take these next 2.
This is one we've identified, is lift station number 5, West Lake Street. As part of what we were just talking about with the CIPP work, we've also identified the wet well that the pumps sit down in, and also a manhole structure that sits outside of it that are in need of rehab. So try to incorporate it as we're in that general area. So the generator in the depiction was placed there a couple years ago, so that's not in the realm this year. It's the control panel that is off to the right-hand side. We try to, with 46 of them in town, as Adam was alluding to earlier, Lake Minnetonka, we do a lot of pumping, a lot of moving of sewage, and so to stay up to date and with the controls and all that, we do 2 to 3 a year. So come in, do a full replacement of the control panel and its components, the pumps, the valves, all the piping down inside the structure that where the sewage lies. So that's lift station 5, West Lake Street, and then the next one was station 28 down on Park Lane. This one you'll see in the depiction, 1 based on its age, 2, this will be a full redo, including the generator. So we'll basically come in, gut everything, we go on temporary bypass and all that, we're never without alarms or pumps or anything like that. And come in, gut everything, put open, and cut down on some of our maintenance costs, and cut down on some of our gremlins as we were talking about in the water system, the water plant, and get the newest, latest, and greatest technology that's out there. So that covers those 2.
Next section is our stormwater. And the first project we have on here is a storm sewer upgrade on McCully Road. I will let DJ explain what the project is, but we identify these bigger stormwater projects when we do our stormwater management plan, which we redo every 10 years. It kind of goes along with the comprehensive plan process, and it's something we do in conjunction with the watershed and the state. And so this project is one of those projects that was identified on that plan, and so this is the one we're proposing for next year. DJ can tell you our problems there.
Our problems, this one is referred to as the Beaver Bay. We have, notorious for years, problems with beavers getting down inside the pipe.
I was gonna guess it.
Causing some issues. Part of it's the size of the pipe. We're getting larger logs and debris that are entering the pipe, and then it makes a 90-degree bend as it gets to the west side of the roadway. And that's where we're seeing, and then it just compounds its way backwards to the east. And so the intention is to go in, remove that manhole structure, bring it closer to the roadway, and extend the pipe straight out versus at a 90-degree so.
Makes way too much sense.
Yeah. Why it wasn't done that way, we shake our head, but try to improve it. This will be just south of the brush site. So if you go to the end of the brush site fence, and then before you enter the loose line trail, there's a series of stormwater culverts in there, and down in that wetland on that hillside. So.
The other problem that we've had with this in the past is just the accessibility for maintenance. Even though we know exactly what the beaver are doing, and that's causing us a problem, being able to have the crews access this just the way it's laid out has been problematic and difficult. So that's, part of it is make it so we can maintain it easier and access it easier so that we can clear out all the sticks that the beaver are bringing in there. The next one I have on here is the annual storm sewer improvements and replacements. This is simply an allocation of about $100,000 a year that we use for, I call it miscellaneous, but a bunch of smaller projects for stormwater improvement. They're miscellaneous culverts or storm pipes or catch basins that need to be replaced. In some years, we're also doing some minor curb and gutter projects along roadways to try to better things. Most of this are things that the stormwater supervisor, Brent, has identified. So he's, at the same time, Scott's out inspecting our sanitary sewer, Brent's out inspecting our stormwater system and identifying those fixes that he thinks he needs to make in the following year. So that's kind of what this allocation does. Any questions on that one? All right. The next capital improvement plan is the equipment CIP. This is city equipment less police and fire. Those have their own separate capital improvement plans. So this is equipment that serves administration. A lot of it's public works, parks, and the golf course is all captured here. On the spreadsheet at the bottom, you can kind of see how they, and also off on the far left, the funding source of how those kind of break out into what funds them. That's a little bit of an oversimplification because there are some of these vehicles that are actually funded by multiple sources, but it's too hard for me to make the spreadsheet work that way, so I pick one. But when we actually distribute the money as we buy these things, we try to balance it on those funds. A lot of things that support sewer also support water, so as an example. And so we'll hit the highlights. Josh's not here, so I'll hit his first one. The first piece of equipment on there is a hand greens mower for the golf course. A need that Josh has identified for the golf course. The good news on this is we are looking at using the newly funded Golf Enterprise Fund to help pay for this, if not pay for it in total. And so this would see the purchase of 2 walking mowers to go after the greens and keep them in good condition.
That kitchen sort of doesn't represent itself very well because it's missing tires on the back end.
Oh, yeah.
But they do have.
Well, those are extra.
That bumps it up to 40,000.
Yeah.
That's what you get on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, the next.
It is interesting to me that he'd even want, push mowers.
It's so nice after a wet, you don't have the weight of a rider, so you can go mow. That's my
Yeah, I know,
retirement
but-
job right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
But it takes 2 laborers,
Yeah.
That's what the young seasonals are for.
Mm.
They like to get up early.
Yep, there are some things that we do have the riders to do. You can do the tee boxes and things like that. But he has noticed that there's just a level of finesse that you can get with the push mower that you can't get with the rider, even with all the fancy hydraulics and leveling and all that he's looking for with those. We used to have some. I think we might even still have a really old one over there, but
That's old.
yeah. So this is to replace those. At the end of the day, our greens that's what kind of makes you your money and makes the golf course, so we want to take care of them. Next item is 710. DJ.
710, this is one of our pickup trucks that we use within the Public Works Department. Primarily Scott, our water and sewer supervisor, drives this one and uses it for his daily operational use. It's a 2012, 82,000 miles. It's on the list for replacement and upgrade. So, it's used for snow plowing in the wintertime, cleaning out the sewage lift stations, water treatment plant, that sort of thing, and helps with the water main breaks and sewer operation. So, no thrills to it. It's just a standard basic pickup truck. So.
What do we do with that then?
We trade them in.
Yeah, we typically trade them in.
But trading on a plow truck is
Not much
nobody
with
wants
the
that.
front ends. And
Is it a Chevy or?
this one, we mostly have a Ford fleet. We do still have a couple Chevys left, but we sort of try to standardize on one, so we cut down on the mechanic side of it with parts and supplies and all that sitting on the shelf.
Because I know we have a couple of plows too, we have the Chevys because they're the ones who handle the weight over time.
Yeah.
Fords were failing, so we had to switch over to Chevys.
Yeah, we've been fairly fortunate with the front ends. We do know that they are, they're getting loose. You can feel that as you're driving them. Our one Chevy pickup has never had a plow on it. It's other than the body failing, just based on its age. It's nice and tight and steers and all that real well. So we do make a difference. So next one, this one is requesting an add to the fleet. With the newly formed utility department that we did last spring and early summer, we have now 3 dedicated public works staff within the water and sewer department. So we're currently that individual is jockeying trucks around. He doesn't have one assigned truck, so he's moving tools from one truck to the next, and will also be our dedicated I&I inspection vehicle with the television camera and all that sort of equipment. Right now, that's assigned to one truck. They end up having to take stuff out of that to go through other operations. So, looking at a utility type vehicle, it's got the storage boxes. This one would be similar to our existing utility truck that we have with a crane on it. This one would not have a crane on it. It's just a storage box to get everything out of it easier for the operators and to gain access to their water meters, all their flags and painting supplies and all that, versus having to jump up into the truck to do that. So.
And this is the one you were looking at slightly used.
A slightly used truck. We had an opportunity with Maurice Ford out in Buffalo. They had a couple of used trucks come in. Since we've been looking at this and trying to get the funding allocations correctly, those trucks have not been sold. But they have more coming in. We've got other opportunities with other dealers that we deal with. So this overall cost would be for outfitting that vehicle also with the appropriate warning lights and graphics and tools and all that sort of thing. So,
Because that's 4-wheel drive still?
4-wheel drive. So,
You got 5 minutes, DJ.
5 minutes?
Yep.
All right. The next one is our big ticket one. This is our Vector truck. See the price tag of $605,000 on it. That's almost as bad as one of James's fire trucks, if not more. This is used for cleaning our sanitary sewer system and also our stormwater sewer system. Alluded to earlier with the sewer cleaning that we do, that Scott goes up and does, and then also on our stormwater, vacuuming our sump manholes and cleaning our storm sewer, Beaver Bay as an example, trying to get some of that loosened up. So
So something that gets all your stuff on the vehicle.
it does, yeah. This is, the depiction is the truck that we currently have. It comes with all the tubes, all the hose.
So I'm assuming technology is a little different today.
It is. The existing truck's a 2001 And the new truck would, has remote access, so the operator doesn't have to stand right next to the truck, so he can be further away. And we're seeing more fiber optic cable in the ground, so we're having to hydro excavate more than just using a digging bucket. So this new truck will allow us to do that, instead of damaging some of the infrastructure that's underground. Similar to fire trucks, this does have a long lead time, from the time we place the order until we take delivery. This is probably 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years. So they get the chassis in, and then they build all those components on the back side of it and the interior. So
And just so you know, a little bit of due diligence, this last year our goal was to see if we could just replace the major components on the vehicle, you know, the pumps and the controls and things like that, and see if that would be cost effective. It turned out by the time we got done monkeying with all that stuff, we might as well just started looking at a new truck, so.
So basically, order it next year, but you'd be getting it in 26?
possibly in 26, they're saying we may be able to get it depending on when we place the order to pull the trigger right away. We may be able to get it as early as 25.
So do you pay half down, or how do you do that? I mean, that's
All we gotta do is just pay, do the purchase order. And then that gets us
keep the money in escrow and be ready to go.
Exactly. Next one is, this falls under the facilities and equipment. With the new public works building, we have a need for a forklift. We currently do not have one. We've been using them a little ad hoc in our mezzanine storage and our cantilever storage, pallet rack storage. We use our Bobcat with the new facility with the higher ceilings and higher racking areas. There is a need to safely put pallets and janitor type equipment, you know, tissue paper, all that sort of stuff up on pallets, and the need for a forklift facilitates that in a safe manner versus how we've been doing some of it. So we've got a cost of $42,000 there. That's for a brand new unit. We've been talking with some of the local agencies that have some good used units that are coming in that are refurbed and all that. So we're confident that price should be able to come down a little bit. So once we get to looking at it a little bit more in depth. Then the next one is not in the overall spreadsheet, but this is a bunch of when we sockets and
Very
the spreadsheet below it. It's a lot of nickel and dime type items and stuff to continue to outfit the mechanical portion of public works. And as Brody is identifying certain needs that he has seen, we did some of this last year, and we see a need for some more equipment instead of having to rent it or sub it out to a contractor. So I've got a full spreadsheet that it's actually turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to with as small as the font was originally. So.
And any one of these items by itself is not constitute capital purchase. It's not something we have to track for depreciation as a capital item. However, I asked DJ to start lumping these things together, kind of like in sets, because when you do add them all together, it can be quite expensive. So grouping these things so that as we look in the out years, we can get batches of the stuff as we need it, and be forecasting and budgeting for it. So hence why we're kind of showing it in this format. But you know, a socket or a socket set is not a capital item, but
There's hope it's not there.
when you take the socket set and an impact wrench and a diagnostic tool and you put them all together, then that's the dollars start to add up. So that's why we wanted to show it.
And then there is in the spreadsheet, as you look through it, it's got a $41,000 capital in there. We're only requesting this year 19,000 of that, and then some of that will be deferred to future years. So the need is still there with the overall budget, and then keep that in line with what other requests that we have. So that's all I have in mind.
So I know we're 5 minutes out and need to set the room. I would say, if you all have any further questions, please reach out and we can walk you through any of these things in more detail. Again, we'll be bringing this back to you as a package in December for approval. And again, approval of the capital improvement plan does not constitute approval of the purchase. It is only a plan. We have to bring each of these purchases back to you as an individual item for a formal approval. So that's kind of how that process works.
Flare, Ron, where was the flare? I thought you came for flares. I didn't see much flare.
No.
I held out till the end. This must be the sound of hands coming up.
Oh, okay, good.
I like how last week I said, or last meeting, I like to switch to this colors. Switch to those ones that look like it's jersey.
Spec out, but say, I'm gonna need to do this recon right now.
Yeah, you go front. We'll need one table.